Welcome to XYPN Radio, where your host Alan Moore brings you into a community of fee-only financial planners who want to profitably and successfully serve Gen X and Gen Y clients. If you're ready to get the knowledge you need from leaders in your field, learn from forward-thinking advisors, and take action on your own goals, XYPN Radio is the show for you. Here's your host.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I'm your host, Alan Moore, and today I'm really excited to have Arlene Moss, the founder of Kimberlite Coaching, a business coaching firm for financial advisors, and also the launch coach for the XY Planning Network, on the show today. Arlene has been coaching RIA owners for many years now and is incredibly talented at motivating and inspiring advisors to be successful. We talked briefly about her background and how she got into financial services, then dove into her coaching process, what she sees advisors struggling with, and how they can overcome the hurdles that come with entrepreneurship. She does a great job of explaining why you need a tribe of like-minded financial advisors around you, a study group, a business coach, and a mentor, and also the value of an annual off-site retreat. Her entire focus is helping advisors build the business that they really want to own, which is something we all struggle with to stay focused on when we're buried in the day-to-day grind of owning a business. This month's podcasts are brought to you by Financial Media Exchange, the world's largest content library built exclusively for the financial planning industry. With content from industry experts like Morningstar, Kiplinger, and former Fed economists, FMX brings financial advisors thousands upon thousands of pieces of unique content that is timely, relevant, and can be personalized. And financial advisors need to know that over 70% of their clients say content marketing makes them feel closer to their advisor. FMX publishes new content every day, offers 12 different newsletters, and enables financial advisors to quickly send branded content from their phone, desktop, or tablet to where clients want. Email, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, websites, blogs, and daily newsletters. I can tell you firsthand that FMX offers a great experience for the financial advisor and a better experience for the financial advisor's client. You can learn more at www.fmexdirect.com. You can find any of the additional resources that we mentioned during the episode at xyplanningnetwork.com/98. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN Radio listeners. It's the community of advisors we've all been looking for during our career. That is there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Without further ado, here's my interview with Arlene. Hey, Arlene, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Alan. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm very excited. So for listeners that are unaware, Arlene is a founder and business coach at Kimberlite and provides coaching to financial advisors, but she is also the launch coach for the XY Planning Network. So we are honored to have her on our team to help our newer firms that are going to be launching a business to have Arlene sort of as a go-to resource for that process. So I'm very excited to dig in with you a little bit about sort of your background and career path, and then sort of your coaching services, and particularly how you help advisors and just tips and tricks that you see, because you've been doing this for a long time. So you have seen it all, I would assume. So I guess let's start from the beginning. How did you get into financial services? Was this sort of always your path?
It was not. I have quite a windy path, so to speak, which I think is why when I see career changers, I always am so encouraging, because just change. It's time. You're never too old. I re-entered the workforce after staying home with kiddos. Also, why I'm a big proponent of the mom network, but we can talk about that later. But I started with a group of fee-only planners. I worked in their training department, and we provided amazing training. I was really proud of the product that we had. I started as just a super part-time admin. So I didn't really need the degree that I brought to the table, but I brought it anyway. And then they built on that as my kids aged and I had more time to put back into the workforce. It was a really perfect relationship.
What was that degree?
Marketing. I have marketing and information systems. That's a funky little combo pack, but it has served me pretty well, actually. So I worked in their training department and really saw that we were training people and they had this great way to be a planner, and then they sometimes went off the rails. The attrition rate was a little higher than we wanted. So we created a coaching program. I launched them. After about a year, we'd be like, okay, now you're good. And we'd send them off. And what I was seeing was people that said, okay, great. Now I'm a really good startup. I'm on my way. But then 2 years later, they are hitting a wall of capacity, or they are trying to hire their first staff or their first junior assistant, or there were all these other hurdles that people were bumping into that I could help with. So I finally decided I would grow up and go do my own thing, launch my own firm. So a few years ago, launched Kimberlite Coaching to help people in different places. I'm finding a lot of people want help with succession planning, not the financial nitty-gritty of the succession planning, but the how do I work with this person? How do I really create this career path? How do we talk to one another? It's been really, really fascinating to see the communication issues that come up and the job description issues that come up. So I've had a blast working on that.
I have to say, you win the title for fastest career explanation. Sometimes this can take 20 minutes to get through all the various pieces. It's great because we're going to get to the meat.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
No, I think it is neither. Just to clarify, so the work that you were doing when you said you worked for the organization, that would be what is now called the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners, ACP. Is that correct?
It is. I wasn't sure if I had to be like on a person on a Wheel of Fortune or something where I'm like, I work for a major telemarketing firm.
I love calling out companies.
I should have asked that before we started. Yes, ACP, Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. That is who I worked for 12 years. It was wonderful. Wonderful bunch.
So Alliance Comprehensive Planners, ACP, they have sort of this coaching system that I think that they had in the past that obviously Burt Whitehead had developed and started training advisors on. So can you talk me through sort of how you, I guess, from a coaching or an education standpoint, coaching standpoint, turned that system into, I guess, sort of what you were talking about earlier with, for new firms, for experienced firms, that sort of thing, just sort of that process that you went through.
Oh, okay. And just to be super clear, I did not use the ACP system to create the coaching program. It was much more of a layered additional aspect. In case anyone's listening and afraid I've taken the system and used that, I don't want anyone to fear that. It started, it's about a quarter, 3 months, 6 months. It kind of depends on the person and whether they're a dual income or they're just all in all the time. But they would go through a self-study program, and then that would culminate in a training program in person, really honing in on all the things you need for the ACP system. And we would wave goodbye and say, you are trained. We dub you ACP planners. You're going to be awesome. And we looked at the data, and not as many of them were staying as awesome as we wanted them to. And we realized the gap was they had a great system. What they didn't have was marketing, accountability, big, business strategy, really working in that classic on the business, not in the business. We gave them in the business training, and they needed on the business support. So we created this coaching program. It started as they leave their success training, then we start. We meaning me and the new advisor. And it was just touching base, accountability, talking about real live marketing and what that means. I am a huge believer in the numbers game. Nick Murray has talked about that. Many, many others. Like, you've got to have the numbers if you're going to have the success. I always joke, I have so many cliches in my head. Every no is just you're one step closer to the yes. And so you've got to get those no's. So I push and force folks to do those numbers. Like, okay, how many new clients do you want this year? Do you want 12? Do you want 24? If you say you only want 5, we're going to have a little talk about your motivation. What do you want? Where are you going? And then backtrack that. Okay, that's great. What's your closing ratio right now? And how do we get that closing ratio up if it's dismal? Then, okay, now we know your closing ratio. Let's say you want 24 clients and you got a 50% closing ratio, you need to have 48 new client appointments. It's super simple math. You've seen it 100 times. It's not I am not inventing anything new. I'm the enforcer. I'm the one that says, okay, How many networking events did you do? How much social media did you do? How many humans did you talk to? How many people have you connected with in some way? Phone calls, emails, new client appointments, the million different myriad of things you may have. I'm the one holding you accountable to that.
Listeners have heard me say that my first boss was in real estate, Rick Kaler, before he became a financial planner. He taught me the 10-3-1 rule, talk to 10, give away 10 business cards, get 3 prospects, get 1 sale was sort of the thing. And we've moved away from that in financial planning because we want to be less salesy. You don't want to be seen as a real estate salesman or an insurance salesman, but ultimately we're selling. We just sell different things. We don't sell products. We sell a service. So in many ways, we're selling ourselves, which could be an entire episode and we've done them in the past, just talking about sales. But it's important to have those metrics and to actually track those metrics again. So, what's your close rate? I'd be interested to know how many listeners actually know and can off the cuff tell me what their close ratio is on prospective clients. Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Is it 80%? Because actually, if it's 20% or 80%, we probably need to make some adjustments on both of those. It's like, not that there's an ideal number, but actually tracking those numbers and being aware of sort of where you're strong and where the gaps are so that they can be addressed. It's hard to fix a leak in your sales process if you don't know where it is. So it sounds to me like that's really where your focus is on this particular area.
On this little aspect, and I don't want to turn it into a marketing call. Well, I would always love to turn things into a marketing call, but I know that's not our goal. But you're right. You talked about, focusing on those numbers. The numbers can say different things depending on where they are. And, I tell folks, if you're really great at getting somebody in your office and your closing ratio is cruddy, then we've got to look at a couple things. What's the quality of the person in your office? Did you want to work with them? How many? So I asked people, okay, of the people you wanted to say yes, how many said yes? And of the people that were in your office, how many did you not care if they walked out the door and said no? If there's a lot coming in your office and I say office, virtual office, whatever. If there's a lot that come in and you don't care when they walk out, you've got an issue in your marketing, your messaging, who you're getting. So there's all these little spots where it may just be that you're not talking to enough people. It may be you're talking to the wrong people. There's a lot of different places we can look at those numbers. So that's one of the things I do. The other thing is more in the business strategy side. It's making sure you're not just focused on, I've got to get this process done. I've got to get this spreadsheet done. I've got to get these immediate issues taken care of. Yes, you have to pay attention to them. You have to get them done. But you know what else you have to do? You have to look 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, however many years you want to look down. You've got to make space to dream about what's going to be and then put the steps in motion so that they happen. I don't ever want somebody to get 5 years down the road and realize they never did anything in years 2, 3, and 4 to make year 5 what they wanted. I want to make sure I come in and say, okay, that's a really cool little financial plan you've got there. I love it. But look up and look down the road a little bit. Just take some time, make the space for it. And that's what I bring to the table.
Because what you will do if you don't go through this process is you will build a wonderful firm that sucks for you. And that can happen where you can find success. But success is all about how you define it. We recently had Dan Andrews on the podcast, and he dug into this a little bit too, which was awesome on, defining your own success. And I look at my own story where I was very fortunate that I sort of discovered it early on, but I was meeting with clients in person in Milwaukee. I did not particularly enjoy Milwaukee. I didn't want to be there forever. It's a great city. I just didn't see myself, growing roots there. And all of my clients I was meeting with them in person. And I realized I was going to build a successful business and I was going to be miserable because I was locking myself into a situation I didn't want to be in. So, and it's funny to me because I'm guilty of it myself. So I can say this, but that as financial planners, our whole job is to help, our clients create a plan. And yet the vast majority of advisors, I don't think ever actually sit down and define their goals, especially before they start a business, but they never really revisit it. It's just not really, for whatever reason, in our just sort of natural process to do. And I'm not sure why that is.
I don't know why it is. That's a deeper conversation, but I think you're absolutely right that a lot of people don't make that room and allow themselves that luxury to really envision what could be and make sure they are indeed creating the practice they want. Listened to several podcasts lately and just saw a speaker at FPA retreat talking about creating these ideal practices where you are out of the office, traveling 4 months of the year, 6 months of the year, and you've got everything just fine-tuned and efficient so that the whole team works really well together, and where you are is not nearly as critical as what you're doing and how you're doing it. Now, that's not for everybody. I'm sure there are some homebodies listening saying, I don't want to travel that much. That's great. But maybe you want to have every single Friday off. Maybe you want to work 3 days a week, but still make 6 figures. That's humanly possible. Absolutely, positively possible. But you have to plan it. Otherwise, you're just going to fall into the average. You will be doing average stuff that most other people do, and you will be successful as most other people define successful. But what really matters is, are you successful based on what you wanted?
I love the point that you make there, because sometimes we sort of idolize the planners that spend 3 months a year, 6 months a year not in the office, because it's so cool. And financial planning is such an amazing career because we can literally do what you just said. I mean, you can make 6 figures and work 10 to 15 hours a week if that is the type of practice that you want to build towards. And, we've had some of those types of planners on the show, and we should have more just to showcase what you really can build. But that's not for everybody. I mean, some folks just passionately love financial planning and they want to do it 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, and they want to help as many people as possible. Some people just have a passion for building a business, an enterprise business, and they want $1 billion or $5 billion under management. The trick is, though, I think what you end up with is sort of what you were alluding to or saying, is you'll end up somewhere in between all of those if you don't make a plan. Because if you want to build $1 billion business, $1 billion AUM business, you don't do that working with millennials with $5,000 in a Roth IRA, right? The math doesn't really work. That's 20,000 clients. It just doesn't work that way. Oh, I'm sorry, 200,000 clients. Someone can correct my math.
I'm not checking your math. I'm not quick on my feet.
You're not necessarily going to do that. And if you want to work 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week and make 6 figures, or some of these other various combinations, then, if you're working with the wrong types of clients, or you're working with them in person all the time and you want to be traveling, you're going to end up with this mix that's completely inflexible, because you're going to have 30 different types of clients that need 30 different types of things. And you're not going to be able to build a big business. You're not going to be able to scale back your hours. You're not going to be able to travel. So you end up in this sort of weird middle place. And that is a hard place to get out of.
Exactly. And for those of you who make the podcast a drinking game, here, get your glass, because here's where we talk about niche. And I don't beat that drum as much as you and Michael. I'm a little more of a hedger, but man, that is exactly why you need to know who you want to work with. And you may not have it fine-tuned at the beginning, but at least you know the difference between ultra high net worth and adorable recent med school grads. Those are different creatures and they require different things. So think about what you want. I just love people that focus on what they want to create and who they want to serve, who they want to help. It's getting back to your why. Why did you start this? I do love Simon and his, start with why. If you haven't figured that out, you have a long road ahead of you, because you're just going to wander around lost in the woods.
So talk me through this, because this is something I personally struggle with. And I don't know if it's partially due to my just being ADD. So what I want changes over time and I get easily bored. But I struggle with this personally in what are you building? Why are you building it that way? And so when you're working with a planner, and I'm graced with the fact that I have Kitsis and Raul now, our COO, in my life, and they help to keep everything on track and keep me focused and all of that. And so that has been my, I guess, crutch, that I've sort of surrounded myself with the right people. When you're a solo though, and just, you're getting started, you're sort of on your own, figuring that part out, figuring out your why, and then implementing it is really hard. So do you have a particular process that you walk advisors through for trying to figure out what do they want out of their business and their life that's actually effective?
I don't have a fine-tuned, exact step-by-step cookie-cutter approach for folks, but we absolutely focus on have you even had time to think about this? Have you taken the time to figure out why the heck you did this? Most of my early conversations with prospects and then new clients, if you're a prospective coaching client, we chat for about a half hour. I always schedule a half-hour call and then we always go over, but an hour is definitely not out of the norm. And most of that, I live by the 80-20 rule. At least I think I do. And I listen. I'm listening for, what did you want? Why? Tell me your story. Tell me how you got here, because how you got here is giving me clues to where you want to go. And then we're going to dig in and I start asking those questions. And why did you call me? Why did you reach out? What are you seeking? And on my first call with everyone, I ask, if we're a year from now, we turn around, what needs to have happened? What are we aiming for so that you are happy with what you've done in the previous year? I need to know that right out of the box. They need to know that. And that's what's funny about that question. Often they just know something's wrong and they don't know what it is. So we're talking through that, giving this person that space to talk to me. So it's much more about them talking through it. I do dig in a little bit to, this Strength Finders, Colby kind of stuff. I'm actually, to be fully honest, I'm getting feedback from folks on what they find the most value in on those. So I haven't focused in on one in particular. But you talking about how you're lucky. You've got Kitsis, you've got Raul, Maddie, you've got a whole crew there just throwing things at you and keeping you in line. And thank you to all involved in that process, by the way. But everybody doesn't have that, which is part of my role. Have a coach. I think everyone should get a coach early on. It doesn't have to be me. There are different flavors of ice cream and there are different kinds of coaches. And I know myself well enough to know I'm not everybody's bag of tricks like this. I'm not for everyone. That's why there's a video on my website, because it is critical people know what they're getting into. But there are a lot of us out there. Find coaches who get you. Find coaches who specialize in your area. There are plenty of folks that specialize in financial planning, financial industry. I focus on almost exclusively fee only. I've got some hybrid folks because I love the hybrid folks and they don't have as many homes as fee only do. Fee only's got XY, they've got ACP, they've got Garrett, they've got NAPFA. Now FPA is great. And depending on your FPA chapter, it can be a very happy place for a hybrid. But I'm really finding a lovely connection with folks like that just are fee only-ish, fee only adjacent, if you will. But if a coach isn't your cup of tea, then for goodness sake, get a mentor. Make sure you find someone ahead of you on the path. And I've written blogs on this before that mentors can take a different tone depending on where you are. And you can have more than one. You can have somebody who's maybe just a few years ahead of you on the path. So they just got out of startup mode and they're there to tell you that you will survive. And there's some huge value in having someone say, it's going to be okay. You're going to make it. But then it's also so valuable to get somebody who's 10, 20 years down the road that's mentoring you saying, man, a lot has changed, but a lot has stayed the same and people are still people, and really talk to you and give you that history and just, again, give you another point in your life where you can look up and look down the road. And your mentors don't have to be exactly like you. They can be, it's more of a personality. Gosh, there's a lot that goes into it. And I don't want to take up the whole podcast on how to get a mentor, but get a coach, and make sure you've got a tribe.
Help me differentiate those two. So is a coach someone that you're paying and you have sort of a regular meeting structure? There's an expectation that, they are your business coach, whereas a mentor is more of a personal relationship it's probably not paid. You're probably meeting less frequently, or is there more that goes into sort of how you're differentiating between those two?
That's a pretty good summary. And I'm sure there's someone out in the listening audience who will say, oh no, I looked it up on Wikipedia. Here's the difference. But that is, your head and my head are in the same place there. Mentors, gosh, there's a huge difference in when people meet with their mentors. I know people that, like, if it's a close geographical person or somebody they just really love to talk to, they'll talk every week. I think that's a bit much, but that's my own personal take. Here's a cautionary tale that comes to mind. I used to arrange mentorship programs over in ACP, and I'd match people up, and that was one of my little jobs when I started. And some of them would say, well, just call me when you need me. And it sounds so sweet. Like, I'm such a giver. You call me anytime. Call me when you need me. And I understand where that's what the mentor is thinking. These are good people. Here is the trick. If you only call your mentor when you need them, you haven't created the relationship. You haven't created the happy, friendly, trusting relationship. And when
because you're sort of always in crisis mode.
Exactly. And then when many people, I shouldn't say many people, when they're in startup mode, there's a little of beating themselves up and feeling unworthy. And if you're in that place, and every time you call your mentor and you're in that place emotionally, you're just going to kind of feel like a loser. And you're not a loser. And your mentor isn't going to, needs to know there are good times and bad times. So I strongly urge people, create that mentoring relationship on solid ground. Don't do call me when you need me, because you won't call, and then you'll be hiding. And that's a huge bugaboo when you're starting up, is that you will find hiding places.
So you said weekly may be a little much. Do you recommend monthly or quarterly with the mentor? I like
monthly. Well, monthly's nice for a mentor. Now, you were asking about the distinction between coaching. Coaching is a lot more intensive. And yes, it's paid, but I'm going to be a lot more intense when I'm getting money. Thank you very much. It is much more focused on absolutely what you need. It is not a mentoring relationship, and there are a million varieties, but a mentoring relationship is more about, I'm going to share my wisdom with you. I'm going to share what I think. A coaching relationship is much less of me giving you answers. It is much more of me saying, you need to make space and find your answers. You need to take the steps to find your answers and create your success. Now, a coaching relationship also, well, this may just be me, so I guess other coaches can weigh in on comments and such. My favorite engagement for an ongoing kind of retainer style engagement is 2 times a month. So we meet 2 times a month, and then unlimited email and calling in between. I've been really, really lucky. No one's ever abused that privilege at all. But I would so much rather get a 10-minute call a weekend, or even 3 days after a call when there's a crisis, there's something going on that you're just stuck, than talk to you 2 weeks later and have you say, well, I didn't really make any progress on that because I was kind of stuck and I just decided to wait for our next call. Like, that'll drive me insane. And those 10-minute calls you're going to feel better when you get off that call. It's totally worth it, and it's what you're paying for. Same with emails. I've never had anyone abuse an email privilege. They just send stuff. Hey, can you take a quick look at this? Hey, do you mind? And it's funny because everyone's always very apologetic. If this is too much, just tell me. If this is more, and I'm like, no, you're paying me money. Have you forgotten? So it's great. I really like that.
That's actually why I like working with business owners, because I do think they understand being a business owner a little better than maybe folks that aren't. But just out of curiosity, your average coaching client, how often are they shooting you a quick email or phone call in between meetings? Is this like it happens once a month? Is it 10 times a month? Sort of what's normal?
It's okay. I don't want to give anybody ideas, but no, it's hardly ever. That's what cracks me up. I could go a year engagement, and maybe 3 times they call me with oh my God, I have got to fire this person. I've never fired anyone, and I hate it. Please talk me through it. Or should I? I've had somebody ask me that, should I? And then I let them talk, and I sit there and listen, and then they're like, you're right, I should. And I'm like, I didn't say you should. I just let you talk. I just let you have some space. But no, that's what I say, is no one's abused it. Emails much more frequently. I would bet maybe not everybody. I definitely have a fair number who I only hear from them on our calls. But oh my gosh, don't make me do numbers. I don't track that because it's not bad. I mean, I guess if it gets bad, I'll start tracking it. But
well, and that's what I'm just sort of curious about, because I'm thinking what I'm going to piece together here is sort of the amount of contact that you're having with each of these different groups. Because if I summarize we can talk more about tribe, because I think that's incredibly important. But I'll separate tribe from study group, from coaching, from mentor. Like these are sort of the 4 areas that you have to go to. And study group and mentor, there could be some crossover there I could see. But I think all 4 are extremely important, especially for a new business owner, because I cannot emphasize enough how much of an emotional roller coaster entrepreneurship is. I mean, I've never heard an entrepreneur tell me, oh yeah, it was easy. Right? Like it's never easy.
It's funny you mentioned the roller coaster because I use a roller coaster analogy when people say twice a month. That seems like a lot. Can't we just talk once a month? And I used to do monthly calls and I did not like them because and this is where my roller coaster analogy came in. I tell people, you see me on the calendar and, you're on the phase. You're just, hunkering down, you're working. And you see me on the calendar and you're like at the top of the hill and you're like, yeah, it's Arlene. I'm great. You get off a call with me and you're like, I can take on the world, hands in the air. I wish we had a video call because you could see me waving my hands in the air. And you're excited, whoosh, down the hill you go. You're getting stuff done. You're feeling motivated. And then you hit the bottom, whoom, and it's back to the and heading up. Now, if there's a month between our calls, that is a long swoop and a long uphill. And there's time for you to go astray. And if it's 2 weeks, it's like you've got that week after the call to be feeling super motivated. And then maybe you get in the trough and you're chugging up the hill, but then you see me already. I'm already right there on the calendar a week away. And so you're like, oh crap, I better get my stuff done because she's going to check on it. I just find the progress is better. The folks do so much better. They're so much more successful when they have a steady relationship.
So is your intention then with business coaching clients that you work with them for a year, for their lifetime? Is there sort of a target time frame that you really like to focus on?
I focus on forever. I assume, and that's just me because I love having these long relationships. I love looking back. And, I have someone who I was there with her very first client, the very, very first one. I've been with her through all these victories. And now it's like she's got this whole team. They're adding on to their office. They're working on their succession plan. And it's like, it is exciting every step of the way. She has made progress, and being a part of that is such an honor. I mentally, for me, I go in assuming we are in this for the long haul. I am there for you. Now, I do not hold people to that. I have folks that'll come in for a quarter and they say, I need a pick me up. I need 3 months of getting in this and then I'm going to be okay. I have folks that come and go. So I have a huge variety. The other thing I've got for those, especially folks that are like, I don't have the investment to make. I mean, sometimes that's the answer and it's true financially. I mean, I'd love for everyone to make that investment. I think it's very important, but I know there are times when you just don't have it. So I will do an intensive, a really short, maybe we're 2-3 hours on the phone or in person, if that is conducive, to just hunker down on a specific, really finite issue. In financial planner speak, that would be like a project, a project retainer or a project that you've got doing. I know hourly and retainer folks will do that. It's just kind of a one-off, but sometimes that's the thing that kickstarts them. And then they say, oh yeah, this is cool. This is good. I got a lot out of this. Let's go back and do more. And for some folks, they hire me for a retreat or an annual strategic planning meeting. And that is usually like a day and a half, maybe 2 days. I don't go much longer than that because it's pretty exhausting, frankly. At the end of that second day, you're ready for a glass of wine and some relaxation. But it is there's always wine. Who am I kidding? We have wine at the end of the first day. But it's just a great way to really dig in and look at that's when we really get to dig into that longer term stuff more intensely. What is 2018 going to hold? Okay, that's the building blocks so that we can do this in 19 and we can do that in 20 and really, really looking down the road. Those are a blast. I've done those with several of my clients.
I know just thinking about all of these different contact points can be a little overwhelming, but and we've talked about it a little bit on the show, and Kitsis and I should probably do an episode just on how we handle our meeting structure. But we've followed the book Scaling Up. And scaling up is all about being in a meeting rhythm. So, you do a morning huddle for 10 minutes with your team every day. You do a weekly meeting with each department. You do a monthly strategic meeting with the executive team. You do a quarterly retreat, and then you do an annual offsite retreat, which sounds like a lot until you get into the rhythm and you realize that it actually saves you a lot of time and energy when you are having these regular meetings. There's less back and forth phone calls and emails whenever okay, next week I'm going to talk to Arlene, so I'm just going to sort of package everything together. We'll talk about things for an hour next week, and then you move on. You spend less time out searching for answers or desperately sending emails and that sort of thing. And so just being in, getting in a habit of, even if you can't afford to have a coach be there your first year or two for an offsite retreat, like getting into the habit of doing something quarterly and annually that allows you to sort of come out of the business. And it's the cliche of don't work in the business, it's working on the business, and just give yourself that space. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you will work in the business the vast majority of your time, which is necessary, but it's also necessary to take a step out and say, okay, what does this business look like? Where am I going? All of these things sort of that you're focusing on here, which is how do I build the business to support the life that I want? And where do I want this to go? And it is amazing to me how more meetings sometimes, if they're structured properly, will actually save you an immense amount of time, which seems counterintuitive, but that's just been my experience.
Definitely. Now, it's funny you say that. It triggered a thought. Classic, cobbler has no shoes kind of thing. I do have a business coach. So I did invest in that immediately. I think I may have gotten her before I got my first client. I'm not positive. It was very close in the running, but I got cheap when it came to retreat time. And I did. I mean, I'm a full confession. This is a safe space, right? So my first year, I'm like, I'm still kind of digging the hole financially. Let's not dig it any deeper. So we have a place up in Breckenridge. I went up, no husband allowed, didn't tell friends I was going. I just hunkered down. And I set it up similar to how I would set up a client retreat. And I had my little agenda, and I thought I was just going to kick some butt and take down names. And I did. It was wildly successful and horrifically exhausting. And I came back and I said, I will never do that alone again. I got a ton done. So I'm happy about that. But at the same time, I was so exhausted. So I told my coach, I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I promise to not be cheap. I will have you do that. And she just chuckled and was like, okay, sometimes we have to let people learn the lesson the hard way. So I do encourage you to take some time away, meditation, if that's your thing, or just going for a really nice walk in the woods and thinking and giving yourself that alone time. Not just, hey, honey, let's go to the cabin and have a nice long weekend. And I think maybe I'll think about work. But, hey, honey, I'm going to the cabin in the woods and you're staying here and, you and the cats just hang out. Clearly, this is an autobiographical story. But anyway, my point is make the space, do it, so figure it out. And maybe if you too go and try and do one on your own, listeners, and you're as exhausted as I was, you'll give me a jingle the next time. So people will ask, if I don't ask you, you'll get 100 emails about it. Do you mind sharing who your business coach is? Okay, now we're really getting honest. Cass Mullane is my business coach here in Colorado Springs because I like to have an in-person coach. And then I work with Joy McShane Euler. We trade coaching, which is super, super fun because we both are in the same space. We work with financial advisors, and it's been a really good barter. I guess that's a classic example of bartering, isn't it? So we've been really good.
What was your process for going about finding your coach? Because this is something that, and I'll just go ahead and tell folks, we're going to have a couple of episodes coming up with Meg, who wrote a really great article for the XYPN blog about how she found her business coach. And so this is going to be a topic that we touch on a couple of times coming up in future episodes. But I'm curious about your process for how did you actually find them and then evaluate them? Starting with, it sounds like you wanted an in-person relationship instead of, doing it virtually. Don't
do as I did, do as I say. Mine was weird. Joy and I have known each other a really, really long time. We were both launching and kind of she was retooling a business that already existed. I was launching. We were not flush with cash. And so it just fell into place. So maybe that's that might even fall more into the study group category. I don't know. So that one's a weird one. And Cass, I just met at a bunch of networking events and we absolutely clicked. And it was a funny one because I didn't think she would take me. I don't know who I thought she would take, but I didn't think it would be me. And so I finally asked her and she was like, yeah, of course I would coach you, which cracks me up because I have people say the same thing. Would you take someone like me? And I was like, well, is your check good? No, I don't. I'm not that cold. I'm not that cold. I have had a couple where I'm like, we're not a good fit. Here's a call for you. Yeah. But it does make me chuckle when I love to be, it's a happy place to be as a new business owner where someone's not sure they're good enough for you. It's like, what? So sorry. That was my little excitement. Yay me moment. Okay. So don't do as I did. Do as I say. And first thing I say is go read Meg's blog. It was awesome. And full disclosure, she didn't hire me. So that was a really, really valuable blog for me as a business owner.
To sort of see the process for how someone evaluates, because for a listener's perspective, I mean, as a financial planner, imagine that your prospective client, the one you wanted and didn't get, wrote a blog post on why they chose someone else. Very valuable just to understand what people are looking for.
It was. And it was a little wake up call. I was blessed with a ridiculous closing ratio. I was getting exactly, the number of clients I wanted at a little above the pace I had set for myself. So I think I got a little lazy, not in the how I handle the clients. I feel like handling the clients was going well. I can strive to improve that all the time, but I got very lazy in how I was handling prospects. And Meg's blog was quite the little wake up call for me. So I say listen to her more than me. But that said, I do have opinions, but beyond that, find someone who clicks with you on a personality, on their style, because there are very, very different people in the world. Just saw Tracy Beckus speak this week. I have heard nothing but great things about her as a business coach. She's in this space. She's the CFP. She knows her stuff. And I've heard all good things about Tracy, but she has been like the holy grail. I've never gotten to actually meet her in person and chat with her. But wow, you talk about two people who are very, very different. We are not the same. So that's a perfect example of who do you click with? Do you click with Tracy? Then you get Tracy to kick your butt into gear. Do you click with me? That is fantastic. Diane McPhee's another great one. I think she and I are probably a little more similar, but I don't know her really, really well. She's another great one. I mean, there are several in our space. And I think being in this space is important. You have compliance issues, not that your coach is a compliance expert, but I think you should have a coach who knows just enough to know if you're being completely stupid. If you're doing something that's utterly wrong, they need to be like, wait, I don't think that's right. You should check with your compliance expert. That's kind of my sentence all the time if somebody seems to be going off the rails. You don't want a coach who lives and breathes in the commission space if you're in the fee only space. And if you're within the sound of this podcast, you're probably either in or fee only adjacent. You don't want somebody who's like, so let me talk to you about how you get these widows to buy annuities. That's not your space. And here's another kicker is anybody and their dog can call themselves a business coach. Full disclosure, I am not certified. So I am one of those people and their dog. I actually talked to my advisory board when I launched and I said, I'm trying to figure this out. Where should I get certified? What should I do? There's a million certification programs and most of them looked like they just sent you a PDF of a certificate and you really didn't learn much. And the feedback I got was, don't worry, you've been in the industry a long time. That's what matters most. But that said, talk to the person. What's their background? Where did they get certified if they are certified? What is their goal? What are the different tools they're going to use? And just make sure they get you. Sounds very simplistic, but they need to understand and be willing to let you dream your dream. not just bring a cookie cutter and say, or maybe a better analogy is those little rings that you put the fried egg in, Sorry, I was just in North Georgia last week and I went into a shop. So those are a top of mind because I didn't realize how many shapes they came in. I thought eggs were round. They're not.
It's amazing, isn't it? We love our eggs.
Yeah, I may or may not have bought like $50 worth of grits because I live in Colorado and real grits are tough to come by. And I have children strewn across and my husband texted them and they all were like, oh my God, get me some, get me some. So we walk out with 5 bags of grits.
Just what you always needed in life. If you don't know what grits are, you're really missing out on what amazing food is. And that's super Southern of me to say.
Yeah, but, don't even talk to me if you're cooking those things in 30 seconds in a microwave.
Talk to me a little bit about your coaching process with advisors. So we talked about that you're meeting with them every other week, you're checking in, maybe an annual, retreat if they are willing to pay for it. But how do you structure, basically 26 meetings a year? I guess if it's twice a month, 24 meetings a year, how are you structuring what you're going to do week 1, week 2, week 18? Do you have a template that everyone follows? Do you have modules that you just sort of rearrange based on what they need? Or is it just purely customized?
It is purely customized. I don't have that. I will have an awareness of certain times of year, and pay attention a little bit if we're heading towards tax planning. Are you in line? Are you set? Do we need to do some process improvements? But golly, the bulk of it is very customized because my clients, you're coming to me in an infinite array of places on your journey. And we've got to start where you are and get you where you want to go. And both ends of that journey are different. So we need to take the steps. So what I do, I'm not sure I can explain this that well over just audio, but when I'm on with a client, I've got my big old, not quite Michael Kitcey size monitors up, and I may have a variety of documents that they've sent me that we're working on. And I've got those open. I've got my notes open, which have, and they have at the top why they hired me. I always keep that at the very, very top. Because I need to remember, and you deserve to have me always know why the heck did you hire me? But then the next section down is longer term things I've stuck a pin in for you so that you don't have to worry about them. If you said, you know what, this summer, I really want to dig into having an online course and getting that situated for some passive income. Then I want to say in May, hey, are we going to work on that this summer? What's coming up? So I've got these triggers during the year, of different, some of them are very minor. I've got clients who say, please just nag me every month to make sure I did my compliance stuff. And I'm like, that's easy. And folks will send me their variety of checklists and accountability items that they want. Please make sure I went to 3 networking events because I hate it and I won't go and I need somebody to nag me. So it can be very, very simple, or it can be more complex. By year end, your junior advisor is going to be seeing clients independently. Okay, what's that look like? What are we doing? And then within the call, the structure is generally I send out a meeting reminder a couple days ahead. The client will get a meeting reminder that has what we talked about the time before, here are the action items you had, which hopefully they'll say, well, yes, those are my action items I've completed. Most of the time they say, holy crap, I have 3 days, and they get on the action items, but that's okay. So we get on the call and they may have sent them to me ahead of time, just a quick status, or we may just go over them real quickly and dig in if there have been some hurdles and some issues. And then I always do a quick check-in to say, any surprise issues, any emergency issues we need to touch on, because I like to get into, I don't want anything nagging in the back of your mind. I want to make sure you're fully engaged in this coaching experience. So if there's something nagging you, we need to get it out. Sometimes we say, holy cow, this is urgent. We're going to deal with it right now. Whatever was on the agenda is getting booted to the next time. And then other times we say, oh, okay. Do you want to talk about that next time? Or when do we need to make sure we address this? So that can look a little bit different depending on what's coming up. At the end of each call, we've already planned where we're headed for the next one. So I've got that written down. And so, which is basically the startup of the agenda for the next call. And that can be anything. It's so variable. It just depends on what the person needs.
Highly customized. I mean, is what it sounds like. Like that
It is. And I'm sure there are other wonderful coaches out there who will be like, oh my, you're a hot mess. But that is what I'm finding works well for people. It's what gets them moving forward. It's their needs, not about me and my cute little program. It's all about what do they need.
It's more I think the purpose of your program is probably different than what other coaches are training on. So, for instance, there are coaches out there that only train on sales, right? So they can have a super well-defined process that you go through and don't ask questions because you're going to go through it. And you can do that. When you're more of like advisor success focused and life success coach, it's going to be sort of as life's happening. And I feel that way with financial planning, that our initial plan, the upfront financial plan, is probably very templated and very customized and all of that. Ultimately, things are going to change based on when life happens, right? You don't get to give the same plan to every client. And so if you're looking to have a long-term, sort of lifelong relationship with your client, or, for you with these advisors, it is going to change based on their life events and what's going on. And when the market, drops 30% overnight, which it will likely do at some point in the next while you're still a coach, you get to adjust, because the main concern that was a concern won't be the main concern anymore. So it doesn't mean you don't have a niche. You can still have a niche and also and have some flexibility within that to customize, especially if that's more your personality.
Yes. And it's funny, I'm making this sound like it's a free for all, and I don't mean to. There are things I'm watching for and listening for all along the way. It's, are you hiding from things? Are you being cheap and hiring too late? Is your niche just has it spread out and become a bit of a mess? I love revisiting niches with people when they're a few years in and they suddenly realize there are certain people they absolutely love and there are certain people they thought they would love, but they don't love as much. And, that's such a fun process to go through.
I loved that. I did that same thing. I got my CDFA because I was going to work with divorced couples or, post-divorce couples. It's sort of through that process. And it took me about a month of doing that work where I was like, and we're changing niche markets and going out for a different designation now, because it was awful. Bless the people that can do that work.
I just met somebody the other day that was like, I'm going to specialize in divorced people. And I thought of you, but I kept my mouth shut. I was like, you go, pumpkin. Good luck.
Enjoy it. Hey, and there are some people that do it and do it really well. I believe it's Katie North is going to be at the conference this year talking, I believe that's her niche, talking off the cuff here. Anyway, it just do phenomenal work and help tons of people. And oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Oh, they're wonderful. They are wonderful humans. I mean, and I love meeting people like that do things that I cannot even imagine doing. Working, a kindergarten teacher. Oh my Lord, I'm so glad you exist in the world. Well, shoot, that's how I feel about financial planners. I couldn't be a financial planner for all the money in the world. And yet I love you. You guys are the best.
Now, let me correct myself. It's Sarah Stanich. I'm sorry, not Katie. Katie's awesome. She was on the podcast a few months ago. It's Sarah Stanich is going to be at the conference talking about her divorce planning process. So anyway, shout out to Sarah. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's a good session. Okay. That's a very good session. And I don't want to go too far off the straight, but that's a really neat thing at the conferences to go learn how other people are doing things, not necessarily because you want to do it, but because you want to find out how you're going to connect with them and where the different puzzle pieces of financial planning can fit together so that when you have an area of expertise you need from another planner, you've got that person to send them to. Ooh. Which is a good segue. It's a segue and it's a circle back to things that I listen for, which is people that don't focus on their core strengths, their unique skill, whatever you bring to the table that is uniquely you. And this is a huge battle. I fight this battle every flippin' day. And everything you do, you have to think about, is there someone who could do it? And not even necessarily for less money, sometimes less money. That's a win. But just because they will do it better, they will enjoy it more, and it frees you up to do what you're really, really good at. And I know some of you are like, well, I'm already doing that. I'm a financial planner. It's like, well, let's focus in a little more. Are you, is your best thing, hand me a folder. I look at it for 5 minutes. I walk in. I am ready to be face to face with that client. I'm ready to be on Skype with that client. That's my strength. And then as soon as that call ends, click, boom, hand everything off to the team. They handle all the backup. So yeah, you're the planner, but your skill is the face to face. Maybe you want to have taxes as part of your business, but doing taxes makes you want to stick a fork into your head. That's okay. You hire somebody, oh gosh, can I throw a plug in? I can. John McCarthy, advisor facing tax. You hire him. You hire somebody else who specializes in doing taxes. It's still your service. It's still your value add, your stickiness, if you will, but it's not you. Woohoo. You're playing golf on the 15th of April. So, and there are a myriad of podcasts that you guys have done. I know, Alan, where people talk about that and how they do it. And Michael had one the other day with Matt Jarvis, another one where he's the master. So so listen up and pay attention and push yourself. Hire sooner rather than later.
In terms of your actual outsourcing, like hiring folks for your firm is hire sooner than later. Yeah, don't wait until you're too busy if you think I am too busy to hire someone, then you have waited about 6 months too long.
Oh, that makes me lose my mind when I hear that phrase. Yeah, definitely. And when I say hire, I use the term hire very globally. So I apologize. It doesn't have to be your employee. I am all about the 1099 person, all about that part-timer. That's the way you can create the look and the feel of a team before you're ready to say, yeah, here's my junior advisor. Here's my full-time paraplanner. Here's my client services coordinator. Especially with your crowd, this XY listening group, a lot of you are virtual. So get that virtual paraplanner. If you only need them 5 hours a week, so what? Get a bookkeeper, get all those things. All those little puzzle pieces can start as teeny tiny puzzle pieces and grow with you.
Well, Arlene, as we're sort of coming to the end of our time together, I ask you my ending question. So if there's sort of one thing that you wish you had known, probably, when you were looking at starting your own coaching business and becoming an entrepreneur yourself, but if there's one thing you wish you had known then that you know now, what do you think that one piece of advice do you wish you could go back and give yourself?
Oh boy, it is those connections. It's the tribe, the coach, the mastermind group. And you don't necessarily need all of them, but I love my house, but it gets quiet and lonely. And then all of a sudden there's dishes I could do, and maybe I should just go for a walk. So yeah, get that tribe, get those people to help you through the troughs and celebrate with you on the high points and get you. People who are like, yeah, I don't want to go to another networking event because they suck. Oh God, I'm not allowed to say that on this. I'm sorry.
I hate networking events, so I get it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I just wrote a blog on that too. Like, oh my goodness. But anyway, you need those people to get what you're going through and yet kick your butt when you're getting whiny. I think that it took me a little while. I now have a mastermind group. I have coach. I did the coach right away, but I didn't get the mastermind group for a while. And that's been the one where they're like, whatever, poor baby can't keep, and so I think that's it. That's my advice.
Well, Arlene, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and share your expertise and sort of your process and encouragement for going out and hiring a coach, whether it's you or others. Go find that person that, will keep you on track and will be your accountability partner, because it's ultimately it's impossible to do this entrepreneurship thing on your own. This is not a one person show. It does take a tribe.
It really does. And anybody out there that wants to, head over to my website, sneak a peek, and do look at the videos, because I'm not everybody's, bag of chips. I'm unique, and I get that, and it's okay. But go ahead and take a peek and shoot me a message if anybody wants to do a follow-up call. That I may regret that statement, but we'll see. Better yet, let me do a plug for the conference. See you all in Dallas this summer.
Quite a few coaches. Arlene will be there among others, and it'll be a good time to meet and chat. Like I said, that it's more fun to get to know your business coach over a beer instead of over the phone sometimes. So Again, Arlene, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you having me. Have a great day, Alan.
That concludes today's podcast, and I'd like to again thank our partner, FMX. Remember that over 70% of clients say content marketing makes them feel closer to their advisor. You can learn more about their content as a service and how FMX helps financial advisors connect with clients and increase sales by visiting www.fmexdirect.com. Remember, clients want to receive personalized content from their financial advisors, and FMX can help. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to hang out with other XYPN radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes with myself and Kitsis, and to finally find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thanks so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You're not alone, and you're not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm. And that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.